Alright, so we're on the Labyrinth Part 3. So today we're going to cover the otoliths. The otoliths are the utricle and the saccule, and these I'll go into a little bit more detail in a second, but these are responsible for our perception of linear acceleration. The utricle sits in a horizontal plane, the saccule sits in a vertical plane, and they are each roughly 2 millimeters squared in volume. Yesterday I told you guys that semicircular canals are not gravity sensitive, but the otoliths are gravity sensitive. They have inside of them hair cells that are embedded in a membrane, which is right here, the macula, otherwise known as the otolithic membrane, and then overlying those hair cells are calcium carbonate crystals. So if you've ever had a doctor talk about your ear rocks or your ear stones, this is what they're talking about, and the actual name for them is otoconia, which is Greek for ear debris. Going back briefly, I realized I didn't point these out. This is the saccule here, and then this is the utricle, and you'll notice that the utricle articulates with each of the semicircular canals, but the saccule doesn't articulate with any of them. So the gravity exerts a pull on the otoconia, which displaces hair cells based on movement. You'll notice in the saccule, gravity is always, as long as you're standing upright or sitting upright, gravity is always exerting a downward pull on the otoconia, and so in the saccule, these hair cells are always displaced. And then that would not be true, obviously, if you were lying horizontally or something like that. But the otoliths give us our sense of position in space and detection of gravitational linear type forces. So the saccule detects vertical linear acceleration forces. So think about the acceleration and deceleration that you experience when you're in an elevator. And then the utricle detects horizontal linear acceleration. So think about when you're riding in a car. So like, for instance, these top two pictures, when you're in reverse or you slam on your brakes really quickly, gravity pulls your otoconia forward, which then displaces the hair cells, and that gives you the sense of like a deceleration forward. And then same thing going forwards. And then this is just showing that you get that same displacement whenever you tilt your head instead of just accelerating or decelerating forward and back. So this is what the otoconia actually look like, and you can see that in this individual, they must be getting a little bit older, because you can see that they're starting to get more porous and cracked, and you got some thinning of these linking filaments here. But essentially, when we're younger, these are very solid and very well connected to each other via these linking filaments. But as we get older, they become more porous and cracked, and this is can be worse in women, especially if they have a morbidity of osteoporosis. And so these linking filaments, as we get older, will also start to thin out, and then it's possible that these otoconia can actually become detached from one another. In those cases, you can have some free-floating debris in the utricle or saccule. Now, if there's detached otoconia in the saccule, it may not be very noticeable, depending on how significant the amount of detached otoconia are, and I guess you would only really notice it if you had no sense of vertical acceleration or deceleration. But in the utricle, there's a risk of these debris migrating into the semicircular canals due to the articulations of the utricle with the semicircular canal. So you can see that this person sitting upright, gravity would still be pulling the otoconia down, so there would be no issue, but as soon as the person lays back, it's possible that these otoconia end up going into one of these canals. And most commonly, it's the posterior canal, just because of its geographical position, so to speak, in the labyrinth. But then after that, the horizontal canal becomes the most frequent. Now, posterior canal is most frequent, upwards of like 90% of the time it's posterior canal. Horizontal canal is like 9%, and then the anterior canal is honestly probably less than 1%, but we'll just say 1%. So this can lead to a condition known as benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Benign meaning it's not super serious, like there's nothing happening in your nervous system that you have to be concerned you're going to die from. Paroxysmal means sudden. Positional vertigo means that when you go into certain positions, that a sensation of the world spinning around you or you spinning is detected. So that's just vertigo. I'll talk a little bit more about BPPV or benign paroxysmal positional vertigo in future videos, but I just wanted to kind of introduce it now. And then the last big thing I want to talk about in the Labyrinth is dark cells. And so this sounds super made up, but I swear it's not. They're called dark cells. They produce endolymph, and so that's the fluid that fills up all the cavities of the labyrinth. And then it also maintains homeostasis by regulating factors like volume, concentration of potassium and sodium, osmolarity, and pressure. Now, it's thought that they may also play a role in the breakdown of free-floating otoconia. You can see that these dark cells are up in the utricle here, located posteriorly in the utricle, but then they are also located in the canal side of the ampulla. And so if debris is free-floating, it's always possible, it's believed to be possible that these dark cells will become phagocytic, meaning that they break down those free-floating debris, and that could be an explanation for why sometimes there's spontaneous resolution of BPPV. And in a nutshell, that is the function of the labyrinth or the peripheral vestibular system. So I hope you guys enjoyed these videos.